Well, hello again, folks. Today we move into the 16th and final chapter of Paul's first letter to the Corinthians. And Paul has really addressed all the main issues he wanted to address, and now he's kind of wrapping up this letter with a few concluding remarks. And he starts by dealing with the arrangements for collection. Now, to 21st century ears, we immediately think of the collection plate that does the rounds on a Sunday during a service. And actually, we're not a million miles off this. Paul is encouraging the believers to make a donation each week to be offered up to the church for use. In our context, we give collection. Usually it's for a general purpose, the running of the church. But occasionally we collect for a particular cause. Maybe a country has been hit by some sort of devastating earthquake or whatever the case may be, and a lot of people are vulnerable because of it. In this instance, Paul is urging the believers to give money to be taken back to Jerusalem to help those who were struggling with poverty generally. And this was something that was dear to Paul's heart, something he was committed to, and I think something that he also hoped would bring about unity between Gentile and Jewish Christianity. And here's one of the key things to remember, folks. When Paul speaks about giving money to the poor, he never views it as some mere matter of money. For Paul, giving to the poor was always a response to the grace of God. So as we are blessed by the Lord in life, sometimes out of gratitude, we may want to give back, so to speak. That's not to say that we owe it to God, but rather it is a sign of appreciation, an indicator to God that we're grateful for his goodness and provision. A friend of mine once told me that when he found out that his wife was pregnant with their child, he was so overjoyed that he decided to make quite a large donation to a particular charity, simply as a sign to God of how thankful he was. I just thought that was a brilliant thing to do. We don't give out of a sense of duty or because we are paying God back. Rather, we give out of gratitude and love. So anyway, Paul gives instruction here to the believers to set aside money each week. So he encourages kind of a regular giving pattern, and he also encourages giving within your means, and that's crucial. He advises that each person looks to their own income and discerns then logically what they can give, and then they should give it cheerfully, as he would go on to say elsewhere in his writing, actually in 2 Corinthians, that we're going to look at briefly ahead of us. This is so vital, though. No one is to give under pressure. No one is to think, oh, I wonder what my neighbour is given. I wonder what my friend is given. This is only between you and the Lord, depending on your own circumstances. And so the money would all be brought together and would be taken to help those who are very much in need. So Paul then goes on to discuss briefly some of his travel plans. He wants to be with the Corinthians, but not just a flying visit. He wants to spend proper time with them. So he may have to wait a while longer until an opportunity arises. But as you can see from his writing here in this chapter, Paul truly trusts in the Lord's timing. He knows beyond doubt that he is a servant of the Lord. Paul is a man on a mission, yes, but it's the Lord's mission. It's not his own. He's not just going to go wherever he wants. He's going to follow the Spirit's leading and go wherever the Lord opens doors of opportunity. I wonder how much of our lives do we live like this? What a challenge that is. Or do we spend most of our time kind of wrestling control of our own destiny from the Lord? And we often try to navigate our own path, but perhaps this lesson to be learned from Paul is that we should be Spirit-led people who are willing to set aside our own desires in order to carry out the will of the Father. Paul carries on then. He mentions Timothy's arrival, requesting that they treat him well when he gets there. And Paul and Timothy were true partners in the gospel. Paul had shaped his thinking immensely and had taught him so much about church and leadership. And Paul really sees Timothy as an extension of himself, in fact, as if Timothy is there in his place doing the same work that he would have done anyway. That's a bit of an insight there into the kind of the closeness and really just this fantastic partnership that these two godly men had between them. And so finally then Paul rounds off this chapter and actually the entire letter by mentioning one or two quick things about Apollos and a few other brothers and sisters in the Lord. He sends some greetings, and his final words are grace and love. Grace and love to all. Grace is the favour of God that is theirs in Jesus Christ. That's what Paul wishes for them. Grace is the beginning and the end of the gospel, the single word that most fully expresses what God has done and will do for us in Jesus Christ. And love then is what Paul truly feels for these believers. Some of what he has written in this letter seems like it's harsh, it's certainly direct to the point, but that doesn't mean he loves them less. In fact, the opposite is true. He cares for their hearts and souls so much. He wants what's best for them because he loves them so greatly. And just as he began in chapter 1, verse 2, he finishes the letter then in chapter 16 with the words, in Jesus Christ, a reminder to these believers that their common life together and thus Paul's love for them takes place as they are together, brothers and sisters in the Lord. And with that, we say goodbye to 1 Corinthians, and tomorrow we head on into Paul's second letter then to the Corinthian believers. So until then, as ever, God bless.